Dried weeds scratched against Angela Harold's bare legs as she walked the neglected grounds behind the Ransom Canyon Museum near Crossroads, Texas. Rumbling gray clouds spotted the sky above. Wind raged as though trying to push her back to the East Coast. She decided any rain might blow all the way to Oklahoma before it could land on Texas soil. But the weather didn't matter. She had made it here. She'd done exactly what her father told her. She'd vanished. Angela had meant to stop long enough to clean up before she took her first look at the museum, but she couldn't wait. So in sandals, shorts, and a tank top, she explored the land behind the boarded-up building on the edge of Ransom Canyon. When she'd talked to the board president, Staten Kirkland, 5 days ago, he'd sounded excited. They'd had to close the museum when the last curator left, and in 6 months she'd been the only one to call about the job opening. Before the phone call ended, Kirkland offered her a 3-month trial if she could answer one question. Angela thought it would be about her experience or her education, but it was pure Texas folk history. "What or who was the Yellow Rose of Texas?" the man on the phone asked in his pure Texas twang. She laughed. "The woman who entertained Santa Anna before the Battle of San Jacinto, the battle that won Texas independence." She'd always loved that story, which often got left out of history books. "We'll be waiting for you, Mrs. Jones." He hung up before she had time to tell him that her name wasn't Jones. In a moment of paranoia, she'd used a false name when she'd bought a laptop and phone, then again on the application, figuring she'd be just one of hundreds who applied. Now, if he checked her transcripts or references, she'd have to make up another lie. That would be easier than finding some guy named Jones, marrying him and dragging him along to Texas with her. Angela had driven 100 miles before she decided she would tell Kirkland that she used Jones because she had been engaged, but he left her at the altar. Kirkland would feel sorry for her, but that was better than killing off her imaginary husband. She'd straighten it all out Monday. She'd even practice just how she'd say it. Monday, she'd dress in a suit and accept the position as curator for the 3-month trial period, but today, simply exploring the place would be enough. After days in the car, she needed to stretch her legs and breathe in the clean air. She'd dreamed of being in Texas for years, a wild country, untamed, open, free, something she'd never felt before, but she planned to now. For the first time, she was free to make her own future. The grounds behind the museum had been left natural, just as it must have looked 150 years ago when settlers came to this top square of Texas. Since the day she'd read there was an opening here for a curator, Angela learned everything she could about this area. The history was interesting, but the people who founded this frontier town fascinated her. They were hardy, stubborn, independent, honest, all things she'd never been. But the first settlers were also broken, desperate, and lost. Somehow they'd managed to work together to build not just ranches and a town, but a future.